The moment you stop reacting, the game flips entirely. Imagine this: you are sitting in a packed conference room, coffee in hand, when a coworker suddenly takes a subtle but vicious jab at your intelligence. Or maybe you are just scrolling through your phone, and an anonymous troll leaves a toxic, deeply personal comment on your post. Instantly, your heart rate spikes to 100 beats per minute, your palms get sweaty, and your brain screams at you to fire back, to defend yourself, to unleash a witty retort that will completely destroy them. Society has drilled into us from day one that we have to stand up for ourselves, that if we do not shout back, we are weak, and that whoever screams the loudest wins the battle. But ancient Stoic philosophy teaches us a completely different, profoundly contrarian truth the moment you react with anger. You have just handed your enemy a leash and allowed them to drag you into their own emotional chaos. By snapping back, you fall perfectly into their trap. Why? Because we have to dissect the actual motive behind an insult. People who throw verbal darts are rarely operating from a place of strength. They are almost always projecting their own massive insecurities, their deep-rooted feelings of inadequacy, or a desperate, pathetic need for attention. They throw a match hoping you will pour gasoline on it, because your anger makes them feel powerful. When you realize that their hostility is just a loud confession of their own inner weakness, you stop feeling offended and start feeling something much more devastating to their ego: pity. This is the ultimate Stoic paradox. The realization that silence is not submission, but rather the most ruthless, unshakable power you can wield in a room. We are going to practice a concept called psychological judo, which is the art of using your opponent's own aggressive energy against them, neutralizing their attack without ever raising your voice. When someone throws a rock at a mountain, the mountain does not shrink. And when someone punches a wall of cotton, their fist just gets tangled and loses all its momentum. That is exactly what your mind must become. True authority is quiet, composed, and absolutely untouchable. If you let someone else's petty words hijack your nervous system, you are granting them a power over your reality that they have not earned and do not deserve. Today, we are opening up an arsenal of psychological judo to equip you with 5 perfectly crafted, silent responses that make insults backfire instantly. These are not petty comebacks or sarcastic insults that just create more drama. They are tactical, state-breaking tools designed to disarm toxicity, expose the insulter's hidden motives, and instantly shift you from being a victim to being the absolute controller of the interaction. By mastering this calm, you will transform every attempt to disrespect you into a devastating showcase of your own self-mastery, leaving your critics scrambling, confused, and completely stripped of their power. You will learn to observe rather than absorb, shifting your mindset so completely that no external force can ever dictate your internal peace. The toxic people who try to bring you down are playing a desperate game of emotional manipulation. But when you simply refuse to participate, the entire foundation of their attack collapses under its own weight. Let us dive into the first tactic and watch the illusion of their authority shatter completely. Let us begin with the first weapon in your arsenal of psychological judo, a move so profoundly disruptive that it leaves the other person entirely defenseless. I call this the tactical silence. Picture that same packed conference room from before. Or perhaps you are sitting at a holiday dinner table where a relative has just dropped a heavily disguised, passive-aggressive insult about your career or your lifestyle choices. They are sitting there, waiting for your face to flush red, waiting for you to stumble over your words in a desperate attempt to defend your honor. Instead of giving them that satisfaction, you are going to do exactly the opposite. You are going to pause for exactly 3 seconds. You are going to look directly into their eyes with a completely expressionless, tranquil face. You will not blink rapidly. You will not frown. You will simply observe them as if you are studying a peculiar specimen under a microscope in a laboratory. The psychological impact of this deliberate silence is absolutely devastating. Society conditions us to believe that if we do not verbally strike back, we are weak and submissive. But the Stoic paradox flips this assumption entirely, proving that a tranquil mind is the one that cannot be broken. When the insulter throws their verbal punch, they are expecting you to catch it and wrestle with it. They desperately need your emotional reaction to validate their own pathetic need for dominance and to mask their deep insecurities. By offering absolute silence, you deny them their oxygen. It is the conversational equivalent of throwing a heavy rock into a bottomless canyon and hearing absolutely no echo. The silence creates an immediate, suffocating vacuum. And human psychology naturally hates a vacuum. Within those 3 agonizing seconds, the power dynamic completely reverses. The person who insulted you suddenly feels the spotlight glaring intensely back onto their own, unprovoked hostility. They realize their toxic behavior is hanging in the air, exposed for everyone in the room to see, including themselves. Because they are operating from a place of inner weakness, the crushing weight of your silence forces them to scramble. They will often nervously backtrack, awkwardly laugh, or try to over-explain away their insult because they simply cannot handle the heavy, unshakable presence you have just established. You have neutralized their attack without expending a single drop of your own precious energy. Ancient Stoic philosophers constantly reminded their students that we cannot control the disrespectful behavior of others, but we maintain absolute sovereignty over our own response. When you refuse to explain yourself to noise, you project an aura of total self-assurance and unbothered mastery. You are showing them that their petty opinion is so insignificant, so completely detached from your own reality, that it does not even warrant the physical effort of moving your vocal cords. This tactical silence strips them of their leverage and forces them to confront their own immaturity, leaving you standing on the mountain while they remain stuck in the mud. Now that you have established your unshakable presence with the tactical silence, the person who tried to insult you is likely feeling completely off balance. They threw a punch, and you simply refused to step into the ring. But perhaps they are stubborn and attempt to throw another verbal jab, trying desperately to elicit the angry response they need from you. This is the exact moment you deploy the second weapon in your psychological judo arsenal, a technique I call the curious observer. Instead of getting defensive, you are going to lean in slightly, tilt your head with genuine, mild fascination, and say 4 simple words interesting. Tell me more. Think about the profound psychological shift that occurs the second those words leave your mouth. Society conditions us to believe that an insult is an attack we must block. But Stoic philosophy teaches us that an insult is merely an impression, a string of words floating in the air that has no inherent power over our reality. By saying interesting, tell me more, you instantly detach your ego from the situation. You stop being the victim of a verbal assault and transform into a scientist observing a highly peculiar experiment. You are no longer defending yourself. You are politely asking them to explain their own rude behavior. People who hurl insults are almost always operating on pure, irrational emotion. They rely on the shock value of their words to hurt you. But when you ask them to elaborate, you are forcing them out of their emotional state and demanding that they use logic to justify their disrespect. And here is the beautiful truth: toxicity cannot survive under the microscope of logic. When you force a toxic person to explain their petty remark, they suddenly realize how ridiculous and small they sound. Imagine that same coworker who just criticized your presentation style in the conference room. When you calmly ask them to tell you more about their perspective, they are stripped of their aggressive momentum. They have to stumble through an awkward explanation, and their hidden motive, whether it is jealousy, insecurity, or a desperate need for attention, is laid bare for everyone in the room to witness. You have essentially taken their negative energy and redirected it right back at them, forcing them to carry the entire weight of the awkward conversation. Ancient Stoics like Epictetus reminded their students that we are not disturbed by things. but by the views we take of them. When you adopt the persona of the curious observer, you are proving to the insulter, and more importantly to yourself, that their words are so insignificant that they do not even trigger your defense mechanisms. You treat their insult as if it were a slightly amusing but ultimately harmless piece of data. This response is completely devoid of aggression, yet it is ruthlessly effective. It drains the oxygen from their attack and leaves them scrambling to explain their own bad manners, while you remain perfectly composed, sipping your coffee and watching the illusion of their superiority crumble to dust. Even after you have exposed their hidden motives with your curiosity, some highly toxic individuals will still attempt to throw another punch, desperately seeking the emotional friction they need to feel powerful. This brings us to the third technique in your psychological judo arsenal, a move I call the ego deflator. Picture yourself at a high-stakes networking event, or perhaps at a tense family gathering, and an arrogant peer decides to loudly criticize your recent career move, claiming that your strategy is completely flawed and that you are absolutely destined to fail. Your immediate biological instinct is to defend your track record, to list all your accomplishments, and to prove them undeniably wrong. But remember the Stoic paradox: the moment you begin defending yourself to an irrational person, you are secretly validating their authority to judge you. You are handing them the gavel and stepping into the defendant's stand. Instead of engaging in that desperate tug of war, you're going to simply drop the rope. You will offer a slight, agreeable nod and calmly deliver 4 incredibly disarming words: "You might be right." The psychological impact of this mild agreement is instantaneous and absolute. Toxic people throw insults like lighted matches, expecting you to provide the dry wood of your anger or your defensiveness so they can watch a massive fire erupt. By calmly saying, "You might be right," you are completely removing all the oxygen from the room. A fire simply cannot burn in a vacuum. You are not actually agreeing that you are a failure. You are merely acknowledging their perspective as nothing more than a harmless, subjective opinion floating in the air. This state-breaking language shifts you out of the victim role and places you into the untouchable position of the controller. You see, the insulter desperately wants you to fight back because your resistance proves that their words have weight, that they have successfully pierced your emotional armor. When you offer absolute zero resistance, their aggressive momentum has nothing to crash into. It is exactly like watching someone try to punch a shadow. They just end up throwing their own back out and looking completely ridiculous. They are left standing there, looking incredibly foolish, holding on to an argument that no longer exists because you refuse to participate in it. Seneca, another brilliant Stoic mind, often reminded his students that we suffer much more in our imagination than in reality. When you deflate their ego by refusing to be offended, you protect your own reality from their toxic imagination. You show them that your self-worth is so deeply rooted and so completely unshakable that a passing comment cannot even begin to threaten it. They wanted to drag you down into the mud of a petty argument, but you have chosen to remain standing on the solid concrete of your own peace. You leave them with absolutely nothing to push against, completely stripping away their power and rendering their insult entirely useless without you ever having to break a sweat or raise your voice. Now, suppose the person trying to bring you down realizes that their subtle jabs are not working, so they escalate the situation, crossing the line from passive aggression to outright hostility, perhaps raising their voice in the middle of the office or making a scene in a crowded coffee shop. They are throwing a tantrum, desperately trying to pull you into the mud with them, because if you get angry and shout back, their toxic behavior suddenly becomes a normal, acceptable two-way argument. This is exactly where you must deploy the fourth technique in your psychological judo arsenal, a profoundly powerful maneuver I call the boundary setter. When they escalate their disrespect, you do not raise your voice to match theirs, and you absolutely do not scramble to defend your position. Instead, you look at them with total calm, deliver one devastatingly polite sentence, and say, "Let us talk when you are ready to be respectful." Then, you simply turn around and walk away. Imagine the crushing psychological impact of this move. Society tells us that walking away from a fight means you are surrendering, that you are the weaker person who could not handle the heat. But the Stoic paradox reveals that leaving a toxic situation is actually the ultimate flex of authority. By physically removing your presence, you instantly expose their motive. They were using you as a punching bag to work out their own severe emotional dysregulation. And by walking away, you strip them of their target. They are left standing there alone, yelling at empty air, looking completely unhinged to everyone around them. You have not just stopped the argument, you have confiscated the entire playing field. You see, toxic individuals thrive on boundaries being blurred. They want to believe that they can treat you poorly and still have access to your time and your energy. When you say, "Let us talk when you are ready to be respectful," you are laying down an impenetrable, unshakable boundary. You are communicating that your attention is a high-value asset and that basic human respect is the absolute minimum currency required to purchase it. If they do not have that currency, they do not get to interact with you. It is that simple. Ancient Stoic philosophers understood that while you cannot control a barking dog, you certainly do not have to stand there and bark back at it. You just keep walking. This response breaks their state entirely because it offers zero emotional validation. It shows that you are so deeply anchored in your own self-worth that you refuse to participate in someone else's emotional chaos. You leave them stranded in their own toxicity, entirely powerless, while you protect your peace and walk away with your dignity completely intact. Let us move to the final technique in our psychological judo arsenal, a response so completely impenetrable that it acts as the ultimate dismissal. Picture the digital arena, scrolling through your social media feed, or perhaps dealing with a relentlessly toxic person who refuses to respect the boundary you just walked away from. These are the critics, the haters, and the online trolls who absolutely thrive on engagement. They do not want a resolution. They are actively hunting for an emotional reaction, an argument, or simply your attention to validate their own miserable existence. They hurl a deeply personal, provocative insult into your world and eagerly wait for you to take the bait. If you try to argue, over-explain, or defend your decisions, you are playing their game and feeding their chaotic energy. Instead, you are going to deploy a weapon of absolute calm. You will simply offer a faint, polite smile and deliver a final, devastating line, such as, "Have a good day," or, alternatively, "Thanks for your opinion." The psychological devastation of this polite dismissal is incredible. To the untrained eye, it might seem passive or indifferent, but Stoic philosophy reveals that this is a ruthless display of self-mastery. By responding with "thanks for your opinion" or wishing them a good day, you completely neutralize their attempts at provocation. You are acknowledging their words without ever surrendering your emotional state. You see, toxic people want to manipulate you with their words, but you are leaving them with absolutely nothing to manipulate. You are not attacking them, and you are not escalating the conflict, which means their aggressive momentum crashes into a solid wall of your composure. Psychologically, this phrase forces the other person to confront the agonizing reality that their words have absolutely zero effect on you. It strips away their leverage completely. They desperately wanted to pull the strings of your nervous system, to make you angry or defensive. And instead, you politely close the door in their face while wishing them well. It is a polite, ruthless, and devastating way to shut down manipulation, expose their fragile ego, and preserve your own dignity. You maintain complete control over your internal environment, remaining entirely untouched by their negativity. The troll or the toxic relative is left sitting alone with their own bitterness, frustrated and entirely powerless, because they realize their insistence cannot dictate your emotions. You are showing the world that you exist far above the noise of their chaos. As the ancient Stoics taught, You are proving that your peace of mind is an independent fortress that cannot be breached by the petty opinions of others. You are choosing exactly where your energy is spent, and you absolutely refuse to expend it on coercion or attempts to control what is beyond your influence. This ultimate dismissal transforms their toxic attack into a quiet, undeniable declaration of your own freedom and personal sovereignty. Once you have delivered that ultimate dismissal and walked away from the digital arena or the toxic conversation, you might still feel a tiny, lingering echo of their harsh words trying to claw its way into your mind. This is where you must apply the most profound internal shift of all, a concept we can call the Epictetus rule, designed to help you transform and master the situation internally. Imagine you are walking through an amusement park and you step in front of a funhouse mirror that severely distorts your reflection, making you look absolutely ridiculous. You do not suddenly panic, break down in tears, and believe that your physical body has actually transformed into that bizarre, twisted shape. You simply recognize that the mirror itself is warped and deeply flawed. Ancient Stoic philosophy teaches us that a verbal insult is exactly like that funhouse mirror. When a toxic person hurls a harsh criticism at you, they are not reflecting your true value or your actual reality. They are holding up a false mirror that perfectly reflects their own internal chaos, their extreme bitterness, and their severe lack of emotional regulation. But to truly master psychological judo, you must take this realization one step further and completely transform their hostile energy into your own personal advantage. When someone insults you, strip away their angry tone and examine the core message as pure, emotionless data. You ask yourself one simple, logical question: is what they are saying true? Or is it absolutely false? If there is actually a grain of truth hidden inside their disrespectful delivery, then they have unintentionally done you a massive favor. They have just handed you a free blueprint for your own self-improvement. You extract the useful data, use it to upgrade your skills or correct your flaw, and completely discard their toxic attitude. You win because you just used their attack to become a better, stronger version of yourself. The brilliant Stoic philosopher Epictetus used to joke that if someone spoke ill of him, he would never bother defending himself. Instead, he would simply agree and say that the critic must have been completely ignorant of his other terrible faults. Otherwise, they would not have mentioned only those few. That is the absolute peak of ego detachment. On the other hand, if you examine their insult and realize that it is completely false, then you understand that it is simply a lie, and a lie is exclusively the problem of the liar. It says absolutely nothing about your character and everything about their desperate, pathetic need to tear others down just to feel a tiny bit taller. When you apply the Epictetus rule, your mind becomes entirely bulletproof. You stop reacting to the chaotic noise and start using every single interaction as fuel for your own unstoppable growth. If they are right, you improve and you win. If they are wrong, you remain untouched. You pity their ignorance, and you still win. The moment you stop attaching your personal worth to the fragile, distorted opinions of unhappy people, their insults instantly lose all their venom, backfiring spectacularly while you continue to elevate your own life. As we reach the conclusion of this journey into psychological judo, it is crucial to recognize what true authority actually looks like in the real world. Society constantly tries to sell us the illusion that power is loud, that dominance requires you to shout the loudest, to have the sharpest comeback, and to relentlessly crush your opponents with verbal aggression. But the Stoic paradox reveals a completely different reality. The person who cannot be provoked is always the most powerful person in the room. When you look at the greatest leaders and the most unbreakable minds throughout history, you will find a profound, unshakable stillness. They understood that anger is a sign of vulnerability, a loud confession that someone else has the power to manipulate your emotional state. By applying the tactical silence, stepping back as the curious observer, acting as the ego deflator, setting an impenetrable boundary, and delivering the ultimate polite dismissal. You have completely rewritten the rules of engagement. You have taken the insulter's desperate need for attention, their fragile ego, and their toxic projection, and you have neutralized all of it without ever compromising your own dignity. You are no longer stepping into the muddy arena to wrestle with people who thrive on drama. Instead, you are standing high above the chaos, watching their hostile energy dissolve into nothingness. Remember the core teaching of the ancient Stoics: we cannot control the disrespectful noise that other people make, but we maintain absolute sovereignty over whether we allow that noise to enter our minds. True power is not about controlling others. It is about achieving such absolute self-mastery that no external force can ever dictate your internal peace. When you refuse to react, you instantly disarm the toxic person, leaving them to drown in their own negativity while you walk away completely untouched. You become the mountain that does not shrink when a pebble is thrown at it, and your mind becomes the wall of cotton that absorbs and neutralizes their hardest punch. This is not just a conversational tactic. It is a fundamental shift in how you navigate human interactions. You transform from a reactive victim into a deliberate, composed controller of your reality. You recognize that their insult is nothing more than a false mirror reflecting their own internal misery, and you absolutely refuse to accept that reflection as your own. The next time someone tries to drag you down with an unprovoked attack, remember the immense power of your own silence. Let them exhaust themselves against your composure. Keep your peace, guard your focus, and never hand over the remote control to your emotions. Master yourself first, and you will watch the illusion of their authority shatter completely, leaving you in absolute command of the game. Knowing these psychological judo techniques is only half the battle, because ancient Stoic philosophy was never meant to be just a collection of interesting ideas that you listen to, and then immediately forget the moment you walk out the door. Epictetus, one of the most brilliant Stoic minds, constantly reminded his students that it is useless to read philosophy if you do not actively apply it to your daily life. He compared the challenges we face, including the toxic people who try to bring us down, to a wrestling coach pairing you with a tough, aggressive opponent. The coach does not do this to punish you. He does it so you can become an Olympic champion. Tomorrow morning, when you step out of your house, you are stepping into that exact arena. You will inevitably encounter someone who tries to test your limits. A driver might cut you off on the highway. A coworker might take credit for your hard work. Or an anonymous troll might leave a venomous comment on your screen. In that exact fraction of a second, your heart will race, and your biological instinct will scream at you to strike back, to defend your ego, and to unleash your anger. But now, you know better. Now, you understand that every single insult thrown your way is actually a gift. It is free training material handed to you by the universe to help you practice your self-mastery. Instead of reacting, you will pause. You will deploy the tactical silence, lean in as the curious observer, act as the ego deflator, establish an unshakable boundary, or simply deliver the ultimate polite dismissal. You will watch with absolute clarity as their toxic energy misses you entirely and backfires, destroying their own composure while you remain perfectly still. You will see the panic in their eyes when they realize they have absolutely no power over your nervous system. By refusing to engage in their chaotic game, you expose their insecurity and solidify your own unshakable authority. You are no longer a victim reacting to the noise of the world. You are the architect of your own reality, choosing exactly what is allowed to enter your mind. Mastering this level of detachment takes relentless practice, but you do not have to walk this path of self-mastery alone. If you are truly serious about building an impenetrable mindset, neutralizing negativity, and taking absolute control of your life, make sure to subscribe to this channel and join our community of thinkers who refuse to be manipulated by external chaos. Hit the like button if you are ready to flip the script on toxicity, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. Always remember that the loudest person in the room is secretly the weakest. And you're calm. Composed silence is the most devastating weapon you will ever wield. Keep your peace, guard your mind, and stay absolutely untouchable. As you step into the world today, remember that your mind is your ultimate fortress. The next time someone tries to project their toxic insecurities onto you, do not give them the satisfaction of an angry reaction. Use these 5 psychological judo techniques to instantly neutralize their attacks and protect your inner peace. You hold the absolute remote control to your emotions. If you found this Stoic philosophy empowering and are ready to master your reality, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below saying untouchable to let me know you are fully committed to this path. Like this video. Share it with a friend who needs to hear this truth today. And until next time, guard your focus and stay absolutely unbreakable. See you next video.